listening to the nation's premier source on health, beauty, and wellness. Detroit Nation with Dr. V. Elaine Arterberry. Lifestyle driven.
Hello, this is Dr. Elaine Arterberry from Detroit Nation, bringing you the latest on beauty, health, and wellness. We are committed to driving the nation to an ultimate lifestyle. We are committed to showcasing Detroit, impacting the entire nation. Today, our guest is Luther Keith, the Executive Director of Arise Detroit, which is having its 10-year anniversary next year and providing tremendous service to the Detroit community. Welcome, Luther. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm interested in how you think your background in media allowed you to succeed with this type of community effort as opposed to somebody who didn't have that background.
I think it's critical because, again, I'm not a nonprofit person. Most nonprofits, many of them, they form with their own individual mission to solve their own individual problem.
Right.
Arise Detroit, as a newspaper editor, you're often asked to step back and get the big picture. Pull the camera back. What's the story behind the story?
Right.
What's the story behind that that shooting or the graduation rates that are not as high? What's the story behind it? Well, it's the lack of funding or lack of parental involvement. So you write that bigger, larger story that people don't see right away. So when I pulled the camera back and started looking at Detroit, I saw all these organizations working, but somehow something wasn't getting done. What is the missing link? And I felt that we needed a way to kind of connect the dots on all of this, remove the silo mentality, and get a collaborative effort to push all these groups forward. And what has happened with the Rise Detroit, most folks, they want to be part of something. They're looking, they get up every day and they're looking, how can we make this block club do better, or this church or this community group? How can we make it do better? And so they're looking. And so what Arise Detroit is, that place when you connect with it, it's going to help you push you forward. And that's the thing that has kind of like made us grow.
And I mean, I think it's fascinating that you have over 200 organizations that you work with, I mean, on a daily basis. Yeah. And, this community has been somewhat traumatized. And is Detroit an example of what other traumatized communities can do? Arise Detroit, how does it work where your model can help other communities? And how do other people come to you? Because we're all about how things that happen in Detroit affect the whole nation. Right. How does Arise Detroit affect the whole nation?
Well, I'm not sure to what degree, but I know we're on the nation's, a lot of groups' radar. I was just literally in Chicago a little over 2 months ago, maybe less than that. I was called specifically to speak at a couple of panels about Arise Detroit and what we're doing to help folks in Chicago. And what our template is one that can work anywhere, because I've also been in Saginaw, and I even had a woman from Jamaica come here and say, maybe we can do Arise Jamaica. Actually, believe it or not, I'd like to do that one.
Yeah, I'd like to do that one too with you. I'll take me with you. Right.
But the model of Arise Detroit is simply think of Arise Detroit as a big plug. Think of all the organizations as sockets. Arise Detroit is a plug that plugs into all of those sockets, all of those individual organizations. And what we do is we do marketing and promotion. We have a newsletter that comes out every week to nearly 4,000 groups and organizations on their behalf. So we're publicizing.
So you're publicizing other folks.
We're publicizing all these other folks. We're like a PR agency and advertising agency that they don't have to pay for. So they send their stuff to Arise Detroit. Arise Detroit pushes out in the community. We make media contacts all on behalf.
So you do this for these other organizations.
Exactly.
I got you.
And as a result of that, these organizations, connect to us and they bond with us and look for us. And so that's because we're a service organization on behalf of other groups, not just Arise Detroit.
Oh,
yes.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah. I'd like to ask you a little bit about, we're going to take a quick break, and then I'd like to ask you about what you're the most passionate about right now.
Detroit Nation with Dr. V. Elaine Arterberry, driving the nation to health, beauty, and wellness.
Drivers of Change, showcasing to the world the innovators from Detroit, Michigan, and the nation that are shaping the country. Drivers of Change, Sean Robinson, producer, author, TV host, Detroit native, and Emmy Award-winning journalist, and recipient of Dove's prestigious Real Beauty Award. Sean Robinson is a true role model for us here in Detroit and the nation. As an author, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and television personality, she's really won the respect and admiration of lots of daily viewers, millions of people throughout her career as her work as a co-host of Access Hollywood. More recently, she has been taking a leap of faith and created a production company called Robin Hood Productions, and she's empowering young women to live their lives as fully as they can. Today's driver of change is Sean Robinson. I'd like to talk, we're coming back now to our conversation with Luther Keith from Arise Detroit, and we've been talking about this concept of Arise Detroit really being almost a media outlet for other organizations, and really garnering the support of 200 or more community organizations to help people heal their community and work in their community in Detroit. What are you most passionate about right now? What's the thing that's got you going?
The thing that most has me going, I would say, is that creating the new Detroit. And when I say creating the new Detroit, I mean new Detroit for all Detroiters. I don't want to get caught up in that political stuff of this Detroit and that Detroit. But creating the new Detroit, creating change. It's like being a painter. And painting, I was just down at the DIA for the Diego Rivera Freedom
exhibit.
Exhibit.
Went on Friday too. Did you go?
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
It's over today. This
it's
is the
over
last
today,
day.
so you missed it. But it's like that, that creating something, having a vision and creating something. I guess much like you, even with this radio show, you have an idea for a show, and then you start to shape it and sculpt it, and it becomes reality. And to be in that moment right now, to live in Detroit at this moment in time, where we're creating lots of challenges, but where people are really committed and focused to making a difference. It's really an exciting time, an inspiring time, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the opportunity to be part of it and to contribute to it.
The media, as you know, being in media for
Right.
Most of your career, used to say not so nice things about Detroit,
Right.
and I feel that that's changed.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell me about what you feel. When did that change? When did that moment happen? Because it did happen.
Right. Well, the media, I could say, there's a long and not so happy history between the media and a lot of Detroiters about how Detroit. Part of it, quite frankly, to be honest, is because Detroit had huge issues. It still does.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, and so we know that. But there was a seemed like almost an eagerness to cling to our deficiencies and fail to acknowledge our accomplishments. The Reverend Charles Adams has a phrase that I always remember when people were boycotting the newspaper. And he said, "You trumpet our failures and whisper our successes." Trumpet our failures.
Right.
But I think that, and I do think that Rise Detroit has played some smaller role in that. One of the things I did, because one of the visions for Rise Detroit that helped get us founded, was I said that Rise Detroit was going to focus on getting media partners to tell more stories of hope and change and people working to transform Detroit. And so what I did is I actually met with all of the major TV station managers, radio, talked about what we wanted to do. The response, for the most part, was pretty lukewarm, actually.
Really?
Because most of them, I felt that whatever they were doing, we could do more to contribute to change. But most of them, the ones I talked to initially, talking about 9 years ago, they said, "Luther, we're already doing positive stories in Detroit. We know how to do positive stories in Detroit. We don't need you to help us do positive stories in Detroit."
Is that what they said?
Basically, yeah.
And these are your colleagues. I mean,
oh,
these
yeah,
are your
yeah,
peers
yeah.
saying
Basically,
this.
they said, "Good luck, and
Good
we'll
luck.
keep. And if it's something good, we'll cover it. But we don't need to." But so what I learned, Elaine, was that the media at that time was interested in telling me that they were doing positive stories on Detroit. I was interested in transforming Detroit.
When did you think the media perception changed? When did it turn?
I think it turned in the last 3 to 4 years, most particularly, obviously, in the last year since the bankruptcy. The first 5 or 6 years of Arise Detroit, when we were called by the media, particularly national media, there were all the stories about the end of Detroit, the tragedy of Detroit. There's no hope for Detroit. Why Detroit is so in such a terrible shape. In the last year and a half, 2 years, particularly with the bankruptcy, I'm getting calls from all over the country from people who want to help me help them find stories about the change in Detroit, about the neighborhoods.
About the positive. So you're telling me you've almost 10 years in this organization, and it's only the last two.
It really is. It's
where people are reaching out to you.
Yeah, because it's become fashionable. See, it's you have this story about the hipsters and this and that. And my thing is, this is like when you find Jesus or God, if you don't matter when you find him, but if you find him, it's okay. And I'm that way about Detroiters, but there's an old song that says, "I was country before country was cool." Some of us in Detroit, here. So I embrace everyone, but I do think that now it's like the stock market. Detroit now has a certain cachet.
Oh, absolutely.
With the Shinolas and people like that, and people who want to attach.
And people like yourself.
And, well, yes, but anyway, so they're the old tried and true ones, and there's the new ones, but it's a mindset. It's like the stock market. All of a sudden people want to buy
Right.
Detroit now. Buy Detroit.
So
Warren
we're
Buffett
popular.
said,
We're hip now.
What we have to do is understand this. All this comes because at the end of the day, it's about working Detroit. It's not about image. It's got to be about work and change. So we have to make the neighborhood safer. We have to get rid of the blight. We have to improve our education rates. We have to work. It's like when Obama was elected president the first time, and people called me saying, "Luther, doesn't this prove that black kids can do anything? They can achieve anything because any dream is possible?" I said, yes and no. It proves any dream is possible if you're willing to work. Obama educated himself. He worked. He made relationships. That's why he's president, not just because he dreamed about it. So we have to work. This is saying that day is Sunday, faith without works is dead. So we have to work. And what we want people to do is to work, and we want to have that work acknowledged and celebrated. And so that's what we're about.
Do you think that having a healthy community, and that's what you're about.
Yeah.
I mean, creating health, creating a safe,
Yeah.
low crime,
Yeah.
prosperous community.
Mhm.
Do you think that's good for the health of the population? Do
Absolutely.
you think it helps people heal?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And there's so many, when you talk about crime and issues that come with that, there's a tremendous mental health tax that extracts on the community.
I think so too. They get the community gets into a mild depression.
Yeah, I've worked at some of the high schools that we've worked in, and kids talk about, their number one concern is getting to school and back safely every day.
Right.
You shouldn't have to be worried about that. That's mental stress.
Right.
So absolutely. And a lot of some of our partners are very health oriented, and for some of our events, they're health oriented events. So I think it does go together. A clean, safe neighborhood promotes health physically and psychologically.
Right. I understand you do workshops to help people fight crime and improve their community. How does that work? What do
Well,
people
this
do?
is our event that we call our neighborhood summit, but that's we two major events: Neighborhoods Day and the Neighborhood Summit. What you were talking about is our neighborhood summit, which is always the first Saturday of November,
Okay.
and that's a whole day of workshops where people are talk to neighborhood experts and people about how they can do things. Develop a fighting blight community health programs, youth programs. So we actually teach people. It's like an expo to teach people, to give them the tools so they can go out and improve their communities.
Okay. I'm really fascinated about how you kind of put this all together, but we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with Luther Keith from Arise Detroit. This is Detroit Nation.
You are listening to Detroit Nation with Dr. V. Elaine Arterberry.
This is Elaine Arterberry with Luther Keith from Arise Detroit at Detroit Nation. Luther, we ask every guest I'm really into the fact that you've taken this concept, which started off, like you said, with 3 pieces of paper and a magic marker, and really exploded it into a whole movement to improve the community that we live in. So I want to ask you, and it's really for our listening audience, what is it something you do every day, or something that you believe in that you think can help people, our listening audience, move themselves forward into this kind of personal commitment and sort of a lifestyle change?
Well, this is not my phrase, but I've heard it and I embrace it and I believe it. And it's this: be the change you want to see.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Be the change you want to see. One of the difficulties we have, apathy is a terrible thing because it retards progress. It keeps people from moving forward. And so what we have in some neighborhoods where I have people call me and say, "Luther, we don't have a block club. There's nobody who wants to do anything." And I said, "I guess that means you have to start the block club."
Right. Well, people can be so
Right,
passive.
right, and
And just go to work. They don't help anybody
Right,
else.
right.
What can you tell our listening audience about how it's important to volunteer, to serve your community?
Yeah.
How does it help you? Because people think, well, what's in it for me?
Well,
we're sort of a
well,
narcissistic
well,
society.
well,
so what is helping
well,
a group like
right,
yours
yeah.
do for
Well,
you?
Well, I was asked this by somebody, said, why is it important to people to be part of Arise Detroit or any effort? And I say, It's a simple question. Do you want a better world?
Right.
Do you want a better world? Do you want a better community? And so most folks want a better world. They want a good community for themselves and for their children. And what's that saying? There's a price to be paid, for your success. My father told me that, particularly for black folks, that you just can't be a success for yourself. You have to bring somebody else with you. And I think the way most people are programmed, they're going to respond to that message. You will be amazed at how good you will feel when you discover there's more out there to enrich your life than what you thought. I tell the story very quickly. You remember some years ago when we had the power blackout all over the East Coast.
Right, I remember that.
And I remember it was on my daughter's 12th birthday. She was at the Pontiac Silverman at basketball practice.
And it was completely, oh my goodness, how scary.
But anyway, if you remember that, everybody was in the same boat.
Everybody. It was a great equalizer.
Yeah, right. So everybody walked out of their houses, went around, looked around the street, and started talking to all their neighbors. Now, in many cases, I use an example. Mr. Smith, 5 houses down from him, which you lived here 15 years and never talked to them.
Right.
He's out of his house, you're out of his house, and y'all start talking. And you say, hey, Mr. Smith's a pretty cool guy. So when the lights come back on, you say, why didn't we ever talk to Mr. Smith before? Because we're so busy doing what we're doing.
Right.
So,
and not getting out.
Right. So come out of those comfort zones, and you will be surprised how enriched your life will be when you see the smiles on people change, the effect it has on people, and the effect it has on you. And I think, quite frankly, it's a great de-stressor. It's a great de-stressor.
Interesting that you say that.
Yeah, when you connect with other people. And again, that's why, my way of looking at things is a little skewed because I live in a positive environment with people.
Right.
That's the world Arise Detroit lives it. Not that we are ignoring problems,
no,
but I'm connecting with people who believe we can change things all the time. These are the people. There's so many unsung heroes all over the city. I could start naming names and you wouldn't never stop because they're all over Detroit and they're doing incredible things. And so these are people who are excited. They're energetic. They have a different way of looking at things.
Right.
And we need more of that. And that's how we'll create change.
You talk about personal responsibility. What do you mean by that when people have a personal responsibility?
I just mean that it's not enough to call a talk show, no pun intended,
Yeah.
or complain at the barbershop or the beauty shop.
Right.
I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And so I just think that it's not enough to complain. It's not enough to point the finger. I always say, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? What can you do? Well, I'm not a millionaire. I can't do anything. No, you can do something. You can do something with your neighbor. Or you can do something with the kid. See, one of the things you don't recognize, ladies, is how much power we do have. How much power. I had somebody talk to me complain about a white businessman that was getting all this publicity because he did this and that, and he was getting them in something. I said, okay, why don't you adopt a neighborhood? Why don't you decide what you're gonna do? Get your friends together, and I'll call the press conference, and I'll be there with you.
Right, to help you, to make the statement.
Right.
Whatever it is you need to get out there.
But the person never did it.
Right, but they'd rather complain.
Yeah. So my point is that, I just think, we're here for a reason, and a reason is not just to pamper ourselves as an individual. I believe that we all should do something to make the world better.
I think
we can do that.
I think you have a fascinating story, both personally and about the evolution of Arise Detroit. I understand that you have a nickname. Are you going to tell us a little bit about your nickname? And you also have an international music career.
Well, I went to hear it once.
Tell me. I mean, I don't want to say it. I want you to say it.
Okay. Well, late in my life, I got in music. When I was in my 30s, I never played music growing up. Only thing I played
what happened? How'd that happen?
Well, I saw a gentleman named Luther Allison one day playing the blues. I started buying blues records and saw a blues guitar player, and it really blew my mind. I said, I want to learn how to play the blues.
Literally, you picked up a guitar and taught yourself how to play the blues?
Well, it took 15 years to become decent at it. It didn't happen that quick. But I stayed with it, and over a period of time, became fairly good at it. And my drummer at the time gave me this nickname because when I started, I was at the newspaper and I said, I don't want to be Luther Keith. That sounds such a dull name for a blues guy. And one day I did a song and people were clapping and he said, give it up for him, y'all. He's a bad man. And I said, wow, Luther Badman Keith.
It was simple as that?
Yes. So that became my name. So I'm now known as Luther Badman Keith when I play the blues.
You don't seem like a bad man. You seem like a gentle giant.
I like to say I'm a bad man in all the good ways. How's that?
Oh, I think that's wonderful. So where have you traveled on your music career? Where have you performed?
Well, actually, in Belgium, I played in Brussels and Antwerp for in 2000. I got a chance to go.
Oh, how
A
exciting!
gentleman paid for us. I played for Morgan Freeman, who was a huge blues fan. He actually at one point owned
The
a blues,
actor Morgan
the
Freeman.
actor. He's
Oh,
a
wow.
huge blues fan. At one point, he owned a blues club in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
I got a chance to play down there for an event where he was in the audience and in
Right.
attendance. He did not invite me to be in the movie, but you
Okay.
know, but anyway. So I played, and of course, I played all kinds of festivals around Detroit and environs, and a lot of parties, special events, and you know, I enjoy it. It brings people together. So through my music, I've actually, when people discover I play music, and actually a lot of community people.
That's what I was
call
going to
me,
ask you.
yeah.
How do you make that connection between music and community activism?
Well, it just happens.
Connect that for me.
It just happens. And matter of fact, just yesterday I played at the community event, the Backpack Music Festival.
Okay.
And they asked me to come and play, and I actually, the word gets out, social media,
And there you go, right?
There it goes. Yes.
Oh, I think that's great. Well, one of the things that is sort of your sentinel event is this neighborhood day, and that's
Right.
coming up.
Yeah.
So that's where you really sort of, it's all like anchored, your whole year
Really,
is anchored
yeah.
towards this sort of
Yeah.
series of
Yeah,
events.
yeah. It's
Let's talk a little bit about
It's
that.
an incredible thing. Our 9th annual Neighborhoods Day, which is going to be Saturday, August 1st. It's going to be not in one place, neighborhoods all over the city on the same day. This is the most important
So
thing.
we have
People-
hundreds of neighborhoods involved.
hundreds of neighborhoods involved. Right now, if you go to our website, we have over 230 events tied to this. Most of them on August 1st. We have events throughout the month of August, a few in late July.
Okay.
People clean up neighborhoods, building houses, back to school events, health fairs, concerts, all individual events produced by neighborhood groups themselves. And we also, through the generosity of our sponsors, we're able to provide, we do banners and t-shirts for all
Right.
groups, but we also are able to provide vouchers for people with one of the local hardware chains, so people can go in and buy supplies for free for their events.
So tell me about that. So
Yeah.
they can get vouchers?
Yes,
so that
yes,
they,
yes.
So if they need
Yeah,
bags
yeah,
or
right,
trash bags
exactly.
or whatever.
But they have to register. And they register. We're in the last days of registration, but if you go to
Okay.
our website, arisedetroit.org, you can register or call us at 313-921-1955. We ask for $50 registration fee. For that, you're going to get a beautiful banner. We get 5 t-shirts. You're going to get cleanup bags. You'll be on our website. We're going to recruit volunteers for you. We also, if you're doing a cleanup, we'll do the vouchers for you.
So
We get
this
water
is-
from Myers. All that
This
for
is
being part
so
of this day.
fascinating
Yeah.
that you have been able to take your media career and your interest in helping the community and combine the two, because these smaller organizations really don't have the resources to
Right.
hire a social media
Yeah, right,
coordinator
right,
and
right.
get a press release and
Right,
you know
right.
get Myers to give them some water
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
for
yeah.
their event.
I
mean,
I
it's-
can say this, Elaine. It is amazing to me. It's amazing to me, and I look as these people support what we're doing, the work of Arise Detroit on behalf of all these organizations. It's just an amazing thing, and I just am still stunned by every day by how things have happened and how blessed we have been and how the people of Detroit. And I want to put
And
take
let's
it
go
back.
there. Let's talk about that.
It's about the people of Detroit. It's really about the heart and soul of the people of Detroit. They have made this possible. What we have done is put out something. I'd like to say, Arise Detroit is not an idea whose a time has come. It's an idea that the community wants to come to.
Right.
And so they have made this and they have embraced this. And what has made us grow is the fact that they've seen our work. And we have a track record now. If you Google Rise Detroit Neighborhoods Day, you're going to find or Rise Detroit even, you're going to find tons of stuff
Right.
all up and down. And it's because of the work of the people in Detroit.
If you could describe, you're an editor, a columnist, a native Detroiter. Tell me how you would define a perfect Detroit.
Wow. A perfect Detroit would be a city with a great school system, with safe neighborhoods, a place where you can work and play in comfort, in peace, where people celebrate each other, help each other, and most importantly is a model to the world about how adversity, how out of challenge, great things can rise.
Oh, I totally agree. And
s-
arise.
And arise. And so, yeah, I keep looking for that, working toward that day. And, you know, and we may never get there. Sometimes people say you confuse perfection with progress. You know,
Right.
And there's a place where there's no crime and no nothing, and it's called heaven, okay?
Right.
But we can make Detroit a much better community, and we can be a model to the world. And I'd like to think that is happening slowly, bit by bit, through the efforts of even people like yourself. I always go back to this. What tells me Rise Detroit is making an impact? Because I'm on your show today.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm on your show today. You know, 9 years ago, there was no Rise Detroit.
Right. And people weren't contacting
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. There was no Rise Detroit, but as again we put out this energy, people connect with it, and that's what has moved it forward. And I'm looking forward to, as we continue to move forward. You know, come back in a year and 2 years.
Oh, I can't wait for you to come back.
Luther, what's happened?
What are you guys doing now?
Right,
yeah,
right, right.
I absolutely can't wait. And I think you're part of this movement, this change, and this change in the perception. And you have a unique perspective because of your media experience and seeing how people used to perceive Detroit as, you know, Detroit used to be the laughing stock, you know, the talk show hosts and the at nighttime journalists would talk about Detroit and make jokes. They don't do that anymore.
Well, you know, there's part of my journalism career, I was a sports writer for 5 years.
Okay.
When you're a sports writer, you're an expert on everything. So
right, exactly.
That's your job, to tell people you're an expert. But I found a funny thing. Teams that we said could never be beat, they lost. Teams that couldn't win, won. It happens all the time. So we're that team that they said we can't win.
Exactly.
But we've started to change that narrative.
I think it's wonderful. I thank you so much for being here.
Thank
it's been
you.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to Detroit Nation. We are lifestyle driven to bring you the best in beauty, health, and wellness. Tune in next week. And as always, achieve your personal best, then beat it. This is Dr. Arterberry with Detroit Nation. See you next week. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at 313 Nation Radio.
Detroit Nation with Dr. V. Elaine Arterberry, driving the nation to health, beauty, and wellness. Lifestyle driven.